Good morning. We are going to get started on just a fun little lesson, and some of you may have done this before. This may be new for some of you, but it's fun and it's easy, and I think you guys will like it. So all you need is a piece of paper. I just have a copy paper here. It needs to be as big as your hand, so it can be a different size, smaller or larger, but you don't want it too small that you can't fit your whole hand on it. You need a ruler, and then a pencil, and eventually you're going to need something to color with. So whatever that looks like, you could paint it if you wanted to. You could use markers, you could use crayons, whatever you have is up to you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to trace our hand, and I want to make sure that you can see my wrist. I don't want to put my hand like all the way at the bottom. I want to make sure that you can see my wrist, and I want to make sure that my fingers are spread out, because otherwise it's going to look like a mitten. So fingers spread out, wrist on the paper, and see how naturally, like, I just want to put my wrist like this, but it's going to look really funny if we trace it like that. So you can try to move your wrist over to where it's going down, but that feels really uncomfortable. I feel like I've kind of tucked my shoulder in. So to make it easier on me so I can do a better job tracing, I'm just going to sit naturally and then watch what happens when I kind of turn the paper. When I turn the paper, my wrist straightens out, my fingers are still spread out almost to the top of the page, and now it's a little more comfortable. So now I'm going to start with my pencil tracing around my hand. So remember, sometimes we like to trace and we like to draw with our pencil kind of at an angle. For this, we want to make sure our pencil is straight up and down, because if we don't, that's how we get those really funny, skinny wrists and fingers that don't necessarily look like wrists or fingers. So I'm going to go really slow around the tops, really slow, all the way down. Now, you can kind of tell I've got some areas that I might want to erase, and so if you want to erase anything, you can pause the video and go ahead and erase them and fix anything that needs to be fixed. If you're ready to keep moving, now's where you need your ruler. But the trick is you want to not trace over your hand first. We're only going to trace on the left and the right side of our hand. I'm going to start at the bottom because it gets a little tricky when we get up in between our fingers. So I'm going to take the edge of my ruler right here, this edge, and I'm going to line it up at the very bottom of the paper. And I want it to be nice and straight. Line it up, the edge meets the edge. I'm going to press in the middle because that's what's going to help me make a straight line. And remember, I'm not going over the wrist. I'm starting at the wrist and going out all the way to the edge. And you have to take it to the edge of the paper. So see how I didn't go over this? So now I'm going to do it again. And this line that I just drew, I'm going to line up with my ruler now. I'm going to hold it in the middle all the way to the edge. And I'm just going to keep doing this all the way up. And you can probably hear my dogs ringing the bell. They really want to go outside, so I apologize for that bell sound you keep hearing. But I'm going to go all the way up. The reason we're not tracing over the hand is because we're actually going to make this into an op art piece. And what we want to do when we get to the hand is we want to make these lines kind of curved. So this is a tricky part because that's in between my thumb. So see how I went right here and then I stopped where my thumb is. So that's kind of tricky. Here we are. I'm going to line it up again. Now it's tricky because remember, I don't want to draw on my fingers. So I'm going to kind of start at my fingers and work in between them. So, ooh, that's a really weird position. There we go. Kaden, thank you for letting them out. They've been ringing that bell. All right. Yeah, one at a time. It's muddy out there. All right, so I'm going all the way up. Guys, if I'm moving too fast, you can always pause the video. I know I sound like the guy from Art for Kids Hub, but it's so true. If I'm going too fast, pause the video. You can see mine's not perfect. I got the lighting in here. I'm sorry. Mine's not perfect. I got off just a little bit. I may actually come back later and just erase this top line. We shall see. But this is the very first stage of this lesson. So here's the next part, and it gets kind of tricky. Remember how I started to tell you that we're making a piece of op art? So we want to actually curve this line. We don't want to straighten it. We want to give it kind of a curve. So the trick to make this look like a piece of op art is to start where this line left off and to curve it over and end where this line starts. Oops, broke my pencil. So we're going to do that all the way up, and it gets a little tricky when it gets to our fingers. And again, at any point that you want to pause this video, feel free, because even I'm going to erase this part right here. Feel free, because that is something I would do too. If I was not understanding, I would pause it. So where it comes to the fingers, we're going to do one finger at a time. So here's where the line starts. I'm going to pick it up. Okay. Up here. All right. I'm going to leave that right there. Looks a little funny around here, so I think I'm going to erase this too. So you guys feel free to make any adjustments. Pause this video if you need. Anytime. I know I keep saying that, but I just want to kind of remind you guys. All right. So now that we've got this nice little op art hand, here's where we start coloring. So the trick is you want to, you guys know me, I'm always making adjustments. So I want this to look good for you guys, so I'm gonna keep plugging away. Okay, the trick is that whatever color you color on the outside, you are gonna color the opposite in the middle, okay? So if I want my wrist, remember I kind of follow this line. I want my wrist to begin with blue. Then I'm going to do yellow on either side. And we're going to work this way all the way through. What I like to do a lot of times too is I like to start with my lightest color. That way if I accidentally mess up, I can always go over it with a different color. So I'll do yellow, and then that means this one will be yellow. And these will be blue. So here this will be yellow, and this will be blue. This will be yellow, blue, yellow, right in here even. I'm just going to show you how to color around these fingers. Fast forward through any of this that you want. Pause it, whatever you need to do. So here's the fingers. Pretty much most of this. Okay, so here is yellow, so that means these fingers are going to be blue, which means back in here it's going to be yellow. In between my fingers. So I purposefully did not do a time lapse on this part because I felt like if you wanted to kind of work along with me and pause and stop and start your video, as you go. It may help you when it gets to the finger part. I feel like usually around the wrist, it's pretty easy, but around the finger part, it definitely gets a little trickier. So that's one of the reasons I did not do time lapse. The other reason is I don't know how to work it yet. I haven't even tried. So I have a feeling I will be using it in the future for other projects. But for this one, I really wanted to not use it so that you guys could work with me, especially when you got up there. And I know I'm bouncing around a little bit here. Forgive me. I'm trying to give some of you a chance to get caught up there if you are working with me. So notice I'm coloring in sort of in a rounded fashion. I like to do it that way because I feel like it gives my fingers and my wrist and my hand a little bit more of a form feel, a rounded feel. So the idea is it looks like our hand is separate from the background. It looks like we're adding sort of another dimension to, like a third dimension to our piece, like there is depth. So almost done. Full disclosure, this was the third time I started this video. The first time I did it, my cat jumped up and sat right in the middle. And then the second time I did it, my dog jumped and he didn't jump up here, but he was putting his face in the way of he was following my scented markers, I think is what he was doing. And he was getting in the way of the camera because he liked the smell of these. So I had to kind of start over. His little noggin was in the way. So anyway. All right, so here I'm going really slow, very careful. I went over this line because I just didn't want to keep it, so in case you were wondering. All right, so now I'm going to go in, and all of these places that I left white, I'm going to add my blue. And then after that, I like to find a gray, which I actually just realized I don't have a gray. So if you don't have a gray, that's okay too. Dogs, stop. Maybe just black will work. Black is not my favorite to use here. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick a side. We want this to look three-dimensional, like my hand really is sitting on top of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick either the left side of my fingers and wrist, or Chief, no, stop doing that. Chief, no. Okay, or I'm going to pick the right side of my fingers, but I'm not going to trace the whole thing. Okay, so for me, I think I'm going to do the left side. So that means left, and then obviously this goes all the way down. So I'm just going to trace nice and gentle all along. My dogs are playing, by the way. They're not fighting. It's raining outside, and they are so bored being on the inside of this house. They're ready to be outside. Okay. Oops. Gee, stop. All right, so messed up a little bit there. That's okay. Obviously, mistakes happen. But to finish this off, I would just go through and I would add blue where all of the white is. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. I know this is a really long video. Maybe I can shorten them later, like I said, with time lapse, but I really felt like it was important to go slow so you guys could work through the fingers with me. If you need any help at all, feel free to email me or just message me through Schoology, whichever is easier. I would be happy to help. So I can't wait to see these on Artsonia. Again, there are directions on your Schoology course on how to upload them to Artsonia, but if you can't figure out how, you can always take a picture and email it to me and I can put it on Artsonia for you. That is no big deal. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Have fun.